I'd like to reconvene the public session of the school board meeting. Just briefly welcome everybody back to the new year, and it's great to finally be in the library as it's been remodeled. And I don't think we've ever done this before, so it's nice to be here. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully it's really nice.
Going to improve each time we get there too, as more work gets finished.
First order of business is to approve the minutes from the special meeting on December 10th regarding the referendum, and then the regular meeting on December 17th from last year. So do we have any comments or questions about those minutes? Can we get a motion to approve the vote of them? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you very much. Dr. Monacello.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Happy New Year. As John mentioned, the library, which is kind of nice. Eventually, we're going to have a better camera system up here, make this more of a presentation room, not only for the board meetings, but also for classes. We think it'll be a nice space for that purpose. We'll have a projector up there, full whiteboard, so that'll help as well. A few things before I introduce Tricia and Joyce, who are going to be talking about social emotional learning and the progress they're making at the elementary school. I did want to update the board very quickly on the wellness committee, that meeting that we held recently. Involved the school psychologists and counselors, administrators. We had some parents there as well. As you recall, one of our goals this year was to look at the whole issue of social emotional learning and wellness and see how that fits into the Bronxville promise. And we've talked about it being a big part of our promise and really at the heart of what we're trying to do. And we come to the conclusion that in order to do well, you have to be well. So the meeting was a full day meeting. We discussed a lot about what it means to be a well student, if you will, in Bronxville. What are the important dispositions? What does it look like? How do we define it? So that work is going to be continuing as we move forward, and you'll hear more about it. And in fact, in May, you recall we did the Innovation Night for the last several years. This year, the focus is going to be on wellness, and we're trying to make it more of a family partnership for the evening to really focus in on some of the work that we're doing from the Wellness Committee, but also the no-chash work that the high school has been focused on, because they've been doing a lot of work. And it's also, as it wound up, and was not intended necessarily because we left it very open-ended, but a lot of the work they're doing is also centered around student stress and wellness. And we have some interesting thoughts that are going on. And I think at the March meeting, you'll hear from Ann Meyer, some of the high school people, about the work that they're doing related to the no-touch design thinking sessions that are going on. But the session in May, we don't have it all worked out yet, but we know it's going to be focused on wellness. We want to introduce people to the work that we're doing, talk about, we might hit on topics such as student anxiety at the different levels and how we're addressing that. So tonight is a nice lead into that as we hear from Trish and Joyce Bastola about some of the work that we're doing at the elementary school on social emotional learning as it relates to Joyce's care lessons, and also as it relates to the new state mandate on guidance program at the elementary school, and having students have access to a licensed guidance counselor. So again, you'll hear more about that, but I think it's an exciting initiative that we're focused on, and extremely important as we try to balance the rigors of the workload of our students, and also have them be well-rounded and have the skills that they need in order to navigate the challenges that they're going to face when they leave us. So at this point, I'm going to ask Tricia, and maybe just Tricia first, to come up and begin the presentation.
Okay, so good evening. Joyce and I are very excited that we get a chance to talk about the work that we've been doing around the social emotional learning program that we started in our elementary school this year. This program was developed in collaboration with our school psychologists and the consultant that they've been working with, Dr. Kelly Grayling, from the Cognitive Behavioral Consultants. So as Dr. Monacello mentioned, we've been doing a lot of thinking K-12 about how social emotional learning and wellness fits in the Bronxville Promise. And we've really come to this conclusion that it's at the heart of what we do, and that we can't achieve these goals of the promise without paying special attention to the growth and development of our students socially and emotionally. And as he also mentioned, we got together last week to talk about wellness in terms of the Bronxville Promise. We talked about our program and how we're working to meet the needs of our kids with distress tolerance, emotional regulation, advocating for themselves, and creating positive relationships. So tonight, Joyce and I will talk to you about what our program looks like, so you kind of get a rough view. And we'll talk about what our students are learning and what we're learning about them. We have some good pre and post data that we'd like to share with you. We'll talk about how our SEL program fits in with the challenge success data that we have from grades 6 through 12. And then we'll also talk about how our SEL program fits into our larger guidance framework for the elementary school. So the program that we put in place is based on something called Dialectical Behavioral Therapy, or what we refer to as DBT. And it's based on the work from the consultant we use, Dr. Grayling. And we've taken something that our psychologists have been using pretty intensively with kids who need that level of work, and we've made it appropriate for a whole class. And it's divided into 4 different modules, as you'll see there. So we focus on mindfulness, distress tolerance for kids to be able to handle something when it goes wrong, to regulate their emotions, and also interpersonal relationships. Right there's that chart that you're looking at that's hanging in a classroom where we gave them skills to handle when they're distressed. Here's an example of a lesson from one of those modules. This is something we talk about all the time in the elementary school now. It's sort of part of our language and vocabulary that we use with kids. It's called Wise Mind. You'll see in that little Venn diagram there, you've got emotion mind on one side, which is when your thoughts and behaviors are controlled only by your feelings. And then that's when your emotion mind versus fact mind, which is only the facts and you're not thinking about your emotions. And we work with kids to get them into what we call Wise Mind, where we want them to make decisions based both on their feelings and the facts. Joyce?
Multitasking.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just need a minute to get my notes organized here. I brought some visuals. So I just want to start out by thanking Dr. Montesano and Dr. Kelly for giving me the shortest retirement on record. And then, of course, thanking the Board of Education for approving my coming back to teach the CARE program. I've said it many times and at many presentations, but it's really a privilege and an honor to work in this district. I'm grateful to come in here every day, and Roy will tell you, sometimes I just literally burst into his office to share some anecdote or something that's come up with the kids. It's the most glorious work to work with children, helping them to seek the truth and to work with teachers who are dedicated and energized every day to help them find it. So, I spent many years in the middle school, and I've had experience in the high school and prior to this Ardsley High School. And as a district, as a community, we are definitely witnessing the same trends that we're seeing documented across the nation, particularly affluent districts. Students are more stressed, there are higher levels of depression, and there's certainly higher levels of worrisome behavior. It's to the district's credit and to your credit that you're recognizing that we have to provide students with the resources, the social emotional resources to be able to cope both socially and educationally. And I want to strongly acknowledge it. Everything that we do for kids rests on their ability to be self-aware and to self-regulate, and that's the basis of our program. It's important that kids understand that they do have it in their power to develop skills and choices, and not only to cope, but to thrive. And one of the points that we make when we talk about emotion mind and wise mind and fact mind is that you need to take what you know, you need to recognize how you feel, and then you need to make a considered choice. So for example, I had a 5th grader today. We were talking about how to use actually distract skills, which is an acronym for different skills that you can use when you're overwhelmed with your emotions. And this kid said to me, said to the entire class, well, I just had a meltdown. So I said, well, wait, so you're telling me that you're a snowman and somebody put a heat lamp over you and, you just crumbled? And that's what we're working on in every class with kids, making appropriate choices based on what they know and based on how they feel. It sounds pretty good, right, high school kids? Okay. But I want to point out that even though I wore my mala beads and my little booties, we're not trying to create a kumbaya world or a Deepak Chopra retreat, but rather we're recognizing with kids that yes, life is stressful and stress is inevitable, and actually it's important to have stress in manageable doses. It's a part of life. Our curriculum here is challenging, and we recognize that, with kids. And our goal is that we want our kids to do well in a competitive world. We want them to be able to compete. We want them to be able to have self-efficacy. We want them to have the emotional wherewithal to be successful, both, personally and professionally. And to do that, we need to teach them SEL skills. We need to teach them emotional intelligence, social intelligence, and we're better to do that than in their natural habitat, in the classroom. So what does it look like? It's a push-in model. It's basically 20 minutes, although I've been known to go over time. And what we do is it's lesson-based. So for today, for the 3rd grade, we talked about making healthy body choices. We talk about sleep, eating, etc. In kindergarten today, we talk to them about how to use their wise mind when it's so hard to wait. No, I didn't. Okay. And in 5th grade, we talked about the skills that they can use when they have strong emotions. After that, they turn and talk. I love this model. We give them a problem to solve, they face each other, they have a conversation. Then we regroup, we share, and we come up with strategies and how we're going to integrate the concepts of the day to our life. So yesterday in 5th grade, kids, I don't have to tell you guys, kids have a lot of anxiety about math tests, right? And it was maybe one of even their first math tests, I'm not quite sure. So they brought that up, and we talked, not only did we talk about the strategies of how do you cope with anxiety when it starts to be overwhelming, but we talked about coping ahead and planning ahead. So what do you do with that? How do you plan for yourself so you're not fighting with your parents at 9 o'clock at night over their attempts to help you when you procrastinated? How are we educating teachers? Teachers, first of all, I should have pointed this out. So when we do the lessons, the teachers they're not at Starbucks, right? They are there in the classroom participating in the lessons, as are the aides. We really work to make, if there's a classroom aide, to have that aide as part of the community, part of the lesson. Secondly, I go regularly to grade level team meetings and we talk about what's working, what should we improve on, what are the themes coming up. I also have been meeting with the special area teachers so they can be sure to, for example, who better to teach and reflect on the difference between an urge and an action than a technology teacher. We need to teach urges and actions with the use of technology from day one, and it's happening. So they are integrating the lessons and the concepts into the classrooms, and we talk about it all the time. Where else can we do this? How can we do it? We do it in PE, all the special areas. All the teachers in the elementary school and many of the teachers in the middle school and the high school have had training in DBT theory and workshops, how to validate kids, how to handle anxiety. So that's been happening for at least 2 years now. The psychologist and I have done book studies with teachers. And hold on, let me just I want to get the numbers right. Dr. Thomas is offering graduate credit on DBT this semester for 20 teachers in the district, and next semester I believe it's 13 or 14 teachers in the district, and she's going to include a second session after this. So there's really a lovely integration and collaboration on all levels.
And our goal is that, when Joyce is not there, that the teachers have a full understanding of the concepts, that they can use them with the students as well.
I just wanted to show you a couple of things that we're doing, because the challenge is to deliver this on a developmentally appropriate level, right? So what we've done this with every class, but I want to just concretize this. So here's your wise mind. And at the beginning of the school year, we talked about the challenges of the new grade and their anxieties about what they're going to learn. And the tendency, and what happens when we feel stressed about our learning. What can we say to ourselves? How can we use our wise mind to keep going? So this student wrote, walk away when I get frustrated, I can say I can do this. And we posted these throughout the classroom. This student, I can do this. And I love this. We talk about the power of yet. I haven't learned this yet, right? Don't give up. Keep on going. Go forward. Don't stop. You fail, you try again. Now, this one is particularly endearing because not only did she put a rainbow in a wise mind, she even has it coming through her two ears. First attempt in learning. Keep going forward. You never fail until you stop trying. The kids came up with this as a group. They talked to each other to develop self-talk. And what we do know is mindset is particularly important in success in mathematics, and we focus on that quite frequently. And then we started the year with an attitude of gratitude. Kids drew what they felt grateful for in life. There's lots of research to suggest that if we start our day thinking about at least 3 things that we're grateful for, we automatically change our brain chemistry, and I talked to them about that. So this student is family, my dog, home, food, water. This football, family, dog, friends, school, life, teachers. The one that I couldn't find that I showed to Roy on day 1 was the first grader who wrote pasta bolognese. Okay, back on to parents. You cannot teach these skills if there's not a collaboration with home. So, and we recognize that. And parents want to know what we're teaching and they want to integrate it. So what are we doing? I meet regularly with the council chairs. We did a formal presentation to one of the first PTA council meetings. And I do what I call, and I learned this from Challenge Success, we do flybys, 10 minutes, show up at a meeting. This is what we're doing. You might want to try it. At least once a month, I send the parents, Tricia sends it for me, a newsletter about what we're doing in class. What are the terms that we're using? What is the language they need to use at home? We're also, the psychologist has presented at BOLD meetings. And we're going to have regular book studies. So the first book study we're doing is first week in February. I'm doing one in the evening and then during the day about, and this book is called Unselfie. It's fabulous. It's really about teaching kids empathy. I have to put this in too, because this was a beautiful moment about empathy. What the third grades did this year, because we talk a lot in the wellness meetings too about expressing gratitude, but also doing things with people as opposed to for people. So what the third grades thought of is, let's show gratitude to the police department. So they used a math lesson on measurement to bake cookies, and they invited the police department, and it was pretty impressive, right, Roy? The number of police who showed up. I guess it was a low crime day in Bronxville, right? So Captain Satrielli showed up. He brought, a female police officer and the sergeant, and the kids were ecstatic. And it was a real lesson about how to be a good citizen. They were really impressed about arrests. They asked. It was an important moment where we express appreciation for people who do so much to keep us safe. And we continue to think about that. What are we learning? We want hard data and we want anecdotals. We want this to be evidence-based. It'd be nice to say, yeah, things are going well. And by the way, they are. But we gave the students from grades 3 to 5 surveys at the beginning of the year. And what we wanted to measure was how strong, we wanted to measure coping emotions. So what did we find out? We found out that kids can label their emotions. They're pretty good by this point in time of identifying. Teachers feel maybe not so much as the students feel they can, but that's usually par for the course. What else did we find out? We found out that our students do not express distress generally in behavior. We know that. Our kids are so well behaved. It's a safe building and kids feel safe with each other. But what they do, and what they did put in the data, is that they are internalizers. So what happens? They get upset, they can't focus. They get upset, they have trouble moving on. What we're going to do, and as one kid told me the other day, when I get nervous, I feel like a car that's stuck in the snow. My wheels keep on turning, and I don't know how to get the car out. What we're going to do is at the end of the year, we're going to give the same survey and see if there's any improvement. What are we learning anecdotally? Your kids love to share. I would be in the class all day. In fact, Tricia said, stop asking them and have them talk in turn. You know, as a psychologist, I walk in, I'm like, oh, tell me more. You're like, this is heaven for me, right? But we have to get on with the lesson. This is not therapy, right? They love to share, they love to talk, and they are critical thinkers. I'm astonished on a daily basis of the connections that kids make and how active and generous they are in sharing. They love mindfulness. They get on the rug, they assume the position, right? Some are better than others at it. You know, we talk to the kids who have more difficulty focusing and why that is and how they can self-regulate to get in a more mindful state. And we know, by the way, that mindfulness is evidence-based. You've all heard about the monks. Yes, their frontal lobes are well developed, but the neurobiologists are also looking at kids in school and documenting that it increases focus, blood flow to the brain, increases social behavior, and decreases behavioral problems. What else are we learning? We're learning that kids can use face-to-face turn and talk for active problem solving. We're also learning that kids are able, if you give them the chance, they can display incredible self-reflection. And they do know that it's important to think about themselves. Oh, a couple other things. They're making connections to literature. Kids are also tired. Kids are really tired. They have a lot on their plate. When I do mindfulness at the end of the day, I cannot turn off the lights. That's just a point I want to make. And The other thing that teachers are reporting to me is that kids who have difficulty risking or participating academically are risking more emotionally. And we're confident as they learn to take risks in the care classes that that will translate into taking more academic risks because they feel safe and not judged. How does this fit in with challenge success? We're seeing the same levels, I wouldn't say the same levels, but the stress and anxiety that we see in high school and middle school students are also evident in elementary school students. Certainly not to the degree, but all of them know what stress is. Even the kindergartners, will talk about stress, and they can report and identify how they're impacted by it. Yes, our students are internalizers. On a wonderful note, they really want to please their parents. So when they bring up problems to solve, how to use their wise mind, they often talk about situations at home, right down to kindergarten, where a little girl said to me the other day, Mommy was very upset with me and she made me take a time out, and I kept crying louder and louder and louder, and then I realized that wasn't going to work, so then I went in and apologized. That's really using your wise mind. And that students in grades 3 to 5, they report really feeling that there's a lot on their plate. And I'm not talking about homework. I'm really talking about the number of activities and things they're involved in. I think.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you. So how does the program that Joyce just described fit in with an elementary guidance program? We've been doing a lot of thinking about this lately, given the new regulations that are out there where elementary students have to have access to a guidance counselor. And when you think about a guidance program, it's really the 3 categories that you see up there. So there's the personal social, career, post-secondary, and academic. And high quality guidance program is going to help students answer the questions of who am I, where am I going, and how will I get there? And when we think about that framework and the work we're doing with our SEL program, what are we hitting really well, and then kind of where are our gaps? We think that the care program is really getting at the personal social piece. And even at the academic, as we teach kids how to be mindful and focus and get ready to learn. So we're doing some thinking around where are the gaps in terms of this new mandate and how can we use it to best meet the needs of our kids. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Questions?
How much time, or do you think it makes sense to spend on having the kids learn to communicate with each other verbally versus texting and emailing? I mean, for the people I interact with who are younger professionals, if you ask them to do something, oftentimes, I emailed them, or I texted so-and-so. I'm just like, well, did you try picking up? And there's no response. There's no
Right.
pick up the phone and walk over the 15 feet to the person's desk. So that's obviously not the same as a school environment, but I would think that things can be, managed better verbally than they are on text or email, and maybe teaching that as a skill is something we have to do.
Right. I mean, our students talk to each other throughout the day in every lesson. I mean, Joyce mentioned this turn-in talk. It's this instructional strategy that kind of blew her mind, but it's so natural in what we do in every, ELA and math, science, everywhere we use that strategy because it's so important for kids to learn to talk to each other socially and academically. So we have it throughout.
Do we have a middle school strategy for that? I suspect by 6th grade they have phones, right? Or 7th grade they get phones.
I think it's embedded in every single interaction that every teacher has with students. Even though we do rely on Chromebooks for presenting work, the work is done socially, and the work is shared with their teachers socially. Very little of it is done online, if you will. And I think that it's central to what middle school does.
I'm kind of surprised that you hear words. I'm thinking about elementary schools. I don't have a child in it. The youngest I have is sophomore, but
I hear words overwhelmed, stressed, and tired.
Yeah.
I don't associate that with kids that are in, kindergarten through 5th grade. Maybe is that concerning?
Yeah.
I mean, it's gotta be.
Yeah, it is concerning. I think that's kind of the point for us, to kind of hear from them, hear their stories. What's nice is that through the lessons that Joyce is doing, the students have the opportunity to talk about that, and they really want to, and it's important to make space for that in the day, because we get so focused on our lessons and getting through everything, but we really have to recognize that kids need that outlet to talk about what they're going through and their feelings and what to do. So you are stressed, let's recognize that, and what strategies do you have to manage it? I think it's real. It might be as surprising as it is.
Do teachers give that feedback at the teacher-parent conferences?
If they notice stress or anxiety in students, so yeah, definitely.
Mike had the same reaction. Trisha was,
Yeah.
I'm sure she came in with this stuff. I'm like, we have our kindergarten, 1st graders feeling anxious and showing signs of anxiety. I was floored, actually.
Yeah, if you're talking some of this, and I was at last night the presentation they gave for the 10th grade parents, and there were a couple of students of 11th grade. Okay, I understand 11th grade, your SAT, you're thinking about college, and I can understand it there, but I mean, kids have to be kids. It doesn't sound like our kids are kids anymore.
They're scheduled wall to wall.
Yeah.
So Mike, I had an opportunity to hear from somebody who had moved into our community from the Midwest, outside of Chicago as an example, and they were floored, and they have grade school, elementary school kids were floored how scheduled everybody was. After school, of course. But that's what it is. He said it's unbelievable to watch it coming from outside and coming in.
And that's one of the reasons we want this wellness committee does want to do some of that work and try to share it with our community to try to get some partnership going with our families.
We should have parents in here.
I'm hoping, yeah. Well, there are some parents on that committee, but that evening as well, and we think it's an important conversation that we have to start having.
Can I say something? And that's how Challenge Success, I was lucky enough or fortunate enough to participate as a middle school psychologist in Challenge Success. We actually went to Palo Alto and has had a lot of follow-up with. That's how Denise Pope and Challenge Success is helpful to the district, because we also, yes, the times are more stressful, we all know that, but we also look at ourselves as a district and how can we look at our institution and make it more user-friendly to students, make it less stressful. And we did put in the middle school and the high school a number of things in place. And I've always said to Denise, I like to be that downward extension into the elementary school, because they focus on middle school and high school. But that's exactly what we use Challenge Success for, and really valuable suggestions.
And it's a little troubling to find that we are actually in a much stronger position, and we've done a lot more than many of our peer schools at Challenge Success. So there's a lot of positive feedback that we've gotten from member schools as well.
One of the things they identified, though, is there's a lot of make work. Have we meaningfully cut back on the make work here in this institution? I'm not talking about throughout K through 12.
Yes, so
We have.
Yes, we reduced our. Are you talking about homework or so any?
Yes, homework,
we
projects,
reduced.
tests, quizzes.
Yes,
We've cut back on all that,
we've
all
cut-
across the board.
Yeah, in the elementary school, yes, I can speak for that.
Middle school and high school?
Yes,
Okay.
more to do, but we're working on it actively.
Thanks, Trish. And Joyce, thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Kelly?
Good evening, everybody. I am very excited to put this resolution before the board this evening as a result of Barbara Dine's retirement, one of our high school counselors. I have the pleasure of introducing you to Andrea Pelican, who is joining us this evening. Thank you for being here. Ann Meyer led a comprehensive search for a new high school counselor, and we were just so pleased, given that it was mid-year, that we were able to find someone so highly qualified. So Andrea, with your approval this evening, is planning on joining us January 22nd. So in addition to that first resolution, as a result of that, we have a revised teacher mentor list for you. That includes Andrea's mentor, as well as 2 elementary leave replacements that you have before you tonight, as well as their mentors. We have some unexpected resignations of teacher aides, not unusual, but ones that we are looking to replace, as well as rounding out as a result of resignations 2 in our maintenance unit, a custodial maintenance worker, as well as a buildings maintenance worker. So you have before you to consider items A through J, please.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to consider items A through J?
Move.
Second.
Okay. Any questions or comments or discussion on any of these items? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Okay. Welcome
Great.
aboard.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we also need to, the mentoring team is part of that? Okay, so,
Yep.
Dan, what's the concept?
Nobody can see this, but the board has a preliminary financial report. I believe it's for the month of November, which states that we're tracking pretty good. And it bodes well for the budget work that we're going to be doing over the next month or two. We're projecting a surplus in the current year of about $500,000, which is usually over the past few years where we've started as an allocation of fund balance in the budget process. I would expect this between now and the end of the year to go up a little bit, although the tuition revenue line will be going down as we had a couple of students move out for the second semester. But we're still, tracking well compared to where original budget was. But I think we're in good shape this year financially. There is one financial action item that just came up the board from our bond council. It's related to the referendum that was passed in December, and it's a resolution from the board for the issuance of $3 million in bonds. We want to close this as soon as possible while rates are very favorable, and it will be the last piece of our financial plan to finance all this work that's obviously in the room we're in still ongoing as well.
Yeah.
The reason this is ongoing is because this is part of that project. It wasn't part of the library renovation project. Once we get ductwork into this room and some of the other rooms, then we'll put a ceiling in here, get rid of these temporary covers of some piping, and we'll be good to go. So, we asked the board to pass this resolution, and it starts the clock. I think for probably within the next 30 to 60 days, we'll be able to close.
Great. Can I get a motion to approve the bond resolution as discussed? So move.
Second.
Any discussion or questions for Dan?
Is there any restrictions, Dan, on when we can issue the $3 million?
No.
It's because it's tied to a certain project or something?
Within 5 years of the referendum, typically.
Okay.
Or it might even be 5 years with the end of construction, I'm not sure. But I think jumping on it is the way to go. Locking in the low rates and amortizing it as quickly as we can.
Any other questions? Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Waiting for negative rates.
We're close.
Um,
Moving on to facilities.
yes. Okay.
Our pile test has passed. So work will begin in the courtyard area. Work continues at Meadow Avenue. They're demolishing that stairwell down there. The roof addition over the blue gym is continuing. I think the steel work is done there, and they continue to box that in. We are on the street for bids for the Innovation Center as one bid, and the curtain wall and everything else as another bid. Those will be opened, I think,
February 3rd.
yeah, early February. So we're looking forward to that, and there's no facilities action items.
Are you getting, is it too early to know if there's a lot of interest in those bids, or what's going on?
We had a good experience with the contractor who did the library, so I sent the bids to them. I think they might be interested in the Innovation Center.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's an attractive job because it's a winter job for these guys, you know. It's hard to get them in the summer, but if somebody really knows what they're doing, they can finish this thing by the summer.
Yeah, because we can allow the work actually be done during the
Yeah, because they can work during the school day. It's segregated, it's on the end of the building. So there might be, we're hoping there's a lot of interest.
Is that, Ann, is that the Innovation Center expected to be in use for the curriculum?
It better be, because we have about 3 or 4 new courses ready to
That's
go
what-
for September 1.
I thought I saw that.
Yes.
That's for your robotics.
Yes.
But we should propose.
So Ann and I will be finishing that room ourselves during the summer.
Conversely, the curtain wall is going to be a panic summer job.
Yes.
When you're ripping off the side of the building and hoping to get it up for the start of school, that's going to be a feat.
Although I will say the architects, when we were questioning about that, they felt more positive because we're going to the brick facade curtain walls opposed to the replacing kind one, which was the less expensive option that wouldn't look as nice, because the lead time of getting that is a lot more. So they felt pretty confident they'll be able to get it done over the summer.
I know this really isn't your problem, but so many parents use that playground during the summer.
Mm-hmm.
So we probably, once we know it's not going to be available, we should get that out to the
Sure.
community.
Oh, yeah.
We lived here.
You know, we're
Yes.
hoping we can keep at least some of it open.
Oh, do you think you can keep some of the playground open?
At certain times.
Wow.
You know, just put up a big fence and
Okay.
kind of push it
Parents of
back.
small children will thank you.
Yeah.
Dan's more confident.
Yeah, I was going to say. If not, you might want to let Cottle know.
We'll see. We'll let them
Already
know.
shaking.
There were no action items?
No action.
Policy review, I think this is the second reading,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Reading of the voter registration policy we talked about last time. Did anybody have any questions or comments or discussion points on that? Great, can we get a motion to approve policy 5605?
So moved.
I'd like to ask the representative.
Second.
All right, great. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Committee reports. Are there any material committee reports that folks have? We did the audit last time.
No, but I
Foundation is
should have
gearing
said this a couple of minutes ago. I really do like the job that Land is doing, and I think the combination of them and the construction managers is really good.
up. Good.
I mean, we got a lot of finger crossing, but the plan that they had on the piles and the way they handled that, even when things weren't going our way, they were good. It was nice to be able to work with them.
Great.
Again, you got to be a lot of finger crossing for the elementary curtain wall. Everything's got to go right.
In a sunny summer.
Yeah.
On the action calendar, Connie, do we need to vote on the change of the date?
No, we don't have to do that.
Okay, so I think we
We should pick a date.
public consumption, we move the date of the board meeting. from
I'll just
13th
send out a public
the
notice.
10th.
Yeah.
Same start time. Okay, with that, I think we move to the public section of the meeting. So if anybody wants to, from the audience wants to say anything, contribute. Okay, I think that's it. So I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.